Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another edition of Talking Bullion. Well, I've got something a little bit different to do today. I thought I'd give a little bit of a history lesson on how did I become the constitutional king. Now, let me just say up front, I really don't like using that tag or calling myself that, just because I just don't think it. Just don't think it sounds right. But other people do, and I get a lot of comments about it. So I thought that we'd go back and take a look and see how that process worked. Give a little bit of a history and a little bit of a story on how it became about. So where did the name Constitutional King come from? Well, one of my great supporters, Silver Ripples, is actually the one who tagged me with that name quite a while ago now. He was the first one to say, "Hey, the Constitutional King strikes again." So with Silver Ripples giving me that title, it's kind of stuck a little bit, and a lot of other people use it. But really, I just like Constitutional Silver and do the best I can to buy it, especially when it's at spot or below. And we'll talk about that a little bit later, about some of my purchases and how I go about picking this stuff up. But let's get into the history a little bit. So we've been seriously stacking silver for a few years now. I've actually been collecting it for quite a few years, but really getting serious about stacking within 2 or 3 years. So it really all came about from the prepping mentality and looking at what was going on even back a few years ago, what was going on in the nation, economy, different things going on, really kind of made us think that we should be prepping and not only stacking silver, gold, but other things such as water, food, batteries, things to protect ourselves. So once we started looking at prepping, it became clear that silver and gold was an essential part of that, and making sure we had backup supplies monetarily, or in a way that if we had to end up bartering for food or different things, we'd have something available. So with that, kind of went from, collecting cool little silver 999 silver rounds from eBay to getting a little bit more serious about picking up some silver. Now at that time, I wasn't really looking for constitutional silver. I was just looking for silver. I really didn't know what I was looking for, just to buy stuff that I could find for a good price. So I remember the first roll of dimes I picked up was from an auction that I went to about an hour from my house. And I was interested in coins, and I walked in and they had everything on display before the auction, and I saw that, they had, ASEs, American Silver Eagles, they had proof versions of them. They had, quarters and dimes and different collections there. And I thought, well, those would be pretty cool to own. I went and I sat down, got my number, got registered and sat down. But as soon as I started the coin part of the auction, even back then, not knowing much, back then I didn't know very much at all about coin collecting and values and how much things are worth. But I did know for the money that I brought along and the budget I was at, I thought, wow, those proof ASCs are going for a lot of money. There's no way I can afford to buy one of those. And, looking back now, I think they were going for more than they were worth for sure. People just, how it is. You go to these auctions sometimes and people just get fired up about coins. I remember going to one about 6 months ago, and somebody paid $250 for a roll of Kennedy halves. And I'm like, wow, you can go online right now and buy those for $120. And one thing for those of you who don't go to auctions, one thing you really need to know is that there's auction fees on top of that. So a lot of times they charge 10%, 12%, sometimes 15%. So not only are you paying that $250, you're paying another 10 to 15% on top of that for the auction fees. So really, I guess if you want them that bad, these are probably, rookie people who get fired up over seeing some pretty shiny silver, and they pay it. But, that's just no reason to pay that much for it. But again, as you guys know, my mentality is a stacker mentality. It's to get things for the best price possible. So at that auction that day, I did end up buying a roll of dimes. And I brought it home, and I was like, yeah, cool. I got myself a roll of silver dimes, pretty awesome. And I opened them up, and I was like, wow, these things are pretty cool. I mean, it's like I just like suddenly like had this appreciation for them and kind of fell in love with them. Like, wow, look at these things are really cool looking. Holding them from the side and seeing the silver. I mean, we all know that these dimes are pretty cool, right? So I was looking, from the side, seeing that they were all silver compared to a regular dime. And I just went through these things and I'm like, man, these things are just really, really cool. And I kind of like at that moment, thought to myself, I need to get some more of these things. So from there, I started looking around, looking at other auctions, going to eBay. Back then, the apps like OfferUp and Let Go really weren't around. So there really wasn't an online option from that perspective. But Craigslist was around and eBay was around, and I was a big eBayer. I've been on eBay for over 20 years. I've been using eBay a long time, so I primarily shifted my focus over to eBay to find out what I could get. I was going to share my spreadsheet with you, but I just think there's probably too much personal information on there. But I do track all my purchases. Well, I started tracking in 2018, so clearly I bought a few things before that. But my spreadsheet starts in 2018. I can take a look and I can see back then that I was a big deal on getting things below spot. I mean, I'd love to get these quarters, these dimes, these halves. You can see I've got some of them marked Franklin, Walkers, AU, BU. I mean, these are just some beautiful things. So I can see that through my spreadsheet, I started buying quite a bit of constitutional silver off eBay in 2018. If I go back and I look, I can see what I bought, how much of it I bought, and what I paid for it. So, I mean, if I look at all my entries and starting in August of 2018, it's purchase below spot. There's not a single one where I paid more than spot. Every single one of them I paid below spot buying off of eBay. So already in 2018, I had this stacker mentality that if I was going to buy it, I was going to get it for a good price. I rarely ever pay above spot for constitutional silver. Now, I will, and I can, and I don't mind if I'm looking for it. I'll pay a little bit, sometimes for it. And especially if I hear a story of somebody online, like locally, that's selling it because they got in trouble or lost a job or whatever, I have no problem giving them, some extra money in my perspective for it because they're selling it because they're a little bit desperate, need some money. So I typically won't, drive those people down if that's their story. Of course, I have no way of knowing if that story is true. But let's assume that it is, and therefore I, feel a little bit bad about, not giving them a little bit extra for it. But, back to my purchases here, I can see, everything was below spot. And then I've got a couple entries. So I've got this kind of broken up in different areas, but I can see a couple entries on my spreadsheet earlier this year in January of 2020 where I bought something off OfferUp. I bought 410 dimes, and as we know, that'd be $41 face. I got it for $5.62 below spot. Now, most of you know that I have this connection that I've been getting it from, but this was a different person. This is a different person I found on OfferUp. Met him, had to drive about an hour to meet him. Met him at a coffee shop, and $5.62 below spot. And there's another entry right after that, early February, where I picked up some more dimes off OfferUp for $4.13 below spot. And then another one, this was on eBay for $4.99 below spot. So I know times have changed a little bit right now, but if you do your research, this stuff is out there. You can find it. Right now, spot's up pretty high, but still, anytime you can get awesome constitutional silver below spot, you should jump on it. So this is why the math is so important to me, and why, a lot of my live streams, a lot of my videos, I talk about the math because I really want to educate people on what they're paying for their silver. To me, it's really important. Maybe it's not to you, and that's fine if it's not. If you're not concerned about what you're paying in relationship to spot, and you just want yourself some awesome, old silver from the U.S., that is cool. But to me, it's important. I like to keep my dollar cost averaging down because I just like to get good deals, and I like to negotiate good deals. I keep an eye on the spot price, and I do the math, and I've done many videos on how to do the math. I've got some great videos on my YouTube channel on how to do the math. So with this history of purchasing things below spot, this is when I really developed my stacker mentality, where I wanted to stack as cheap as possible. I do not like to sell my silver, as most of you know. I recently, offered up a little bit of constitutional silver. I sold a little bit, but frankly, I'm comfortable with that. I'm not a good salesperson, and I just don't like to sell it. I didn't really buy it to sell. I bought it to hold on to for, the future. I tried to price it right. I think maybe I priced it a little too high. That wasn't on purpose. I was just trying to find a good price. It was kind of a win-win situation, but that's okay. I mean, whatever. I just don't. I probably shouldn't have put it out there in the first place. So I appreciate the few people that purchased from me, but I'm good for now. I don't need to sell it. Just looking for some money for a special project we're working on. So we're good. But my intent when I buy is not to resell. It's to hold, and that's what we prefer to do. And here's one of the things I like about constitutional silver. And one of the things that I think a lot of people like about constitutional silver is that there's no more available. It is not being manufactured any longer. So what is out there is all that's out there. And let me tell you, every day it gets a little bit less. So if we decide not to sell our stack, no one would be able to buy it. So if I decided not to sell any of this stuff and everybody else that has this in their stack decided not to sell any of their stuff, you know what? It would not be available. And think about recently with the online bullion dealers during this crisis we're going through. They had none of this stuff available. People were holding. And do you know what kind of value that makes this? I think this stuff is so undervalued. I wouldn't call it rare. There's plenty of it, I believe. But it gets less and less every day, and I don't think there's nearly as much as we think there is. I mean, think about what this really means. Think about what this means as far as, what's available and what you can buy and the potential rarity of this stuff. It is still being melted every day. If you go in and you talk to coin dealers, when I go to coin shops, this stuff is being melted. They send it off to be melted every single day. So I want to show you something, a video from Coin Help You. This is Daniel. He owns a coin shop in Ohio. And I would encourage you, if you don't follow him on Coin Help You, to follow him. He's got some great videos. I watch him almost every video he puts out. I watch, and you really get a different perspective on collecting, selling, what's valuable, what isn't from him. And he has some really good stuff. So let's take a couple minutes and see what he says about why he melts constitutional silver.
Now, as far as why a dealer would melt coins, there's various reasons. One, nobody wants Roosevelt dimes that much. I sell a few of them, and I also Washington quarters. When people want constitutional, they try to get Mercury dimes and Walking Liberties and Franklin halves. Well, those coins have a little bit of a premium. They're not really constitutional. As far as anything that has a numismatic value is not considered constitutional. Constitutional is considered junk silver, the reject stuff, the slick stuff, and all that. But it's kind of morphed into, the little better stuff. And I get that, but it is more desirable. But in reality, nobody really wants Washington quarters. Roosevelt dimes, I sell a little bit of both. The Roosevelt dimes and Washington quarters off my website. And I've sold a few, but the thing of it is, sometimes I might buy, several hundred face. So then when you buy several hundred face, or you have a few $1,000s tied up in it, and you're looking at the time it takes to sell it, the effort it takes to sell it, and then where are you going to store all of it if you get several bags in, and you start thinking, okay, I can unload this much for this fee at the refinery and still have enough for inventory, and that's basically what you're looking at here. Then everybody wants to pay melt or near melt. Well, if you live in Ohio, now if you're not in Ohio, I don't have to charge tax, but if you live in Ohio, I have to charge taxes. So someone comes in the door or orders off my website, then I have to charge them tax, then PayPal fees. And once that happens, and then the time it took me to list it or whatever, then I'm actually below melt on selling it. Well, why do that? Why go through that effort when it takes more time and I can just pack them up, take them up to the refinery after I get so many ounces and melt them? So as you can see, that's where a lot of the melt comes from. And I think that if it's slick or no dates, I don't see anything wrong with it. When you start getting the dates and mint marks and things that you can fill collections and the coins are actually halfway decent, like some of them that I did find, the proofs, then, I would rather keep those out. I would rather sell those separate because I can't get more than melt. The silver and what I'm paying right now for gold, I'm paying a certain percentage of melt, is not going to be the melt if I hold on to these coins. There's no guarantee that that's going to go up anymore, and more than likely it's probably going to drop. It dropped a little bit today. I think $10 has dropped in the last 24 hours. I don't know how steady that's going to be. So when you're in business, you sell it when it's at its highest if you buy a bunch of it. And one of the ways of doing that is taking it to the refinery, because you get your check from the refinery. You don't have to pay taxes, because it's local, and you get it really fast, okay? So that's the reason. That's the reason why silver and gold coins are melted. There could be other various reasons, where storage issues, where a dealer might not have enough room in his safes for a bunch of silver like that, tying up capital, freeing up capital, that kind of thing. All kinds of reasons why a dealer would melt. And when you're in this business, any business, you do the math and you take the path of least resistance. And that's basically why gold and silver coins are getting melted.
So yeah, as you can see, it is being melted by these dealers all the time, and he justifies why. And when I talk to coin dealers at coin shows, they tell me the exact same thing, that they send this stuff out to be melted all the time. So every single day, this stuff gets rarer and rarer. Rare is maybe a strong word, but there's less and less. And this is happening all the time. And I'm going to do another video in the future about some research I did about the melting of constitutional silver. And I think that if we understood how much of the stuff is being melted, we would definitely be collecting as much of it as we could, because it's getting to be, it's getting less and less every day. And I think that it's valuable to hold myself. Only my personal opinion. There's other things that are valuable to hold as well, but constitutional silver is really one of those things that we should be trying to accumulate as much as we can. And I remember talking to another LCS that I stopped by and visited, and he told me the same thing. He said almost all the constitutional silver comes into a store, he sends out to be melted. He doesn't keep it. He doesn't sit on it. He sends it to be melted because he gets money quick. Like Daniel said, it's you don't have to try to sell it. You don't have to hold on to it. You can just get a check real quick. So I think this is a lot more common than we really think. So why constitutional silver? Why not just buy a bunch of American Silver Eagles or Buffalo Indian head type rounds or something else? Well, I agree you should buy American Silver Eagles and generic rounds as well, because I think they'll have a place and I think they all will have a purpose. And if you watch my YouTube channel, you know that we buy those as well. But for constitutional silver, there's a lot of pros, a lot of reasons to have it. Number one, it's the best fractional silver, bar none. I mean, you talk about fractional silver, you go and you buy your 1/10 ounce fractional 999 silver, and you're going to pay a lot of money for it. This is fractional silver at its best. Dimes are just classic, great fractional silver to own, and I would encourage you to get yourself some dimes. These are great to have, and 14 dimes equal 1 ounce of silver. So 14 dimes is 1 troy ounce of silver. So you can easily break it up and use it if you need to. And it's easily recognized. I mean, who doesn't know what a quarter and a dime and a $50 look like? And I'm not just talking about the U.S. I'm talking about worldwide. And to me, that makes it really important that you don't have to explain it to anybody. People know what it is. Let's take a look at, use this little screwdriver to help me get this out of here, but let's take a look at some of the stuff. Look at these BU Kennedys, huh? I mean, how can you not love that? I don't know why my cameras decide to start flashing. Every time I update this software, they make it worse, not better. I'm pretty annoyed. I need to send them a email saying, knock it off. If you're going to update the software, make it better, not worse. But just look at these things. I mean, this is just such a beautiful coin. So not only is it valuable, it's pretty as well. Look at the seagull on the back of this thing. Wow. So constitutional silver, people know it. People love it. You don't have to get into any explanations about what it is. People know what it is. And another good reason to buy it is it's rarely faked. I mean, nobody's making dimes, fake dimes. The only times you might find a fake is like some rare key date like the 1916 D Mercury dime. They might try to produce one of those or try to change one of the mint marks into a D, like an S to a D or something like that. But nobody's faking this stuff. It would be a felony. It's U.S. coinage. It'd be a big risk to fake it. And frankly, there's just not enough money to fake dimes. I mean, all you'd have to do to create the dies or however you would do it, it would just be a lot of effort for such a little return. And you could put that effort into many other things and get much better return on it. So, rarely faked, if at all. That's another great pro of constitutional silver. And also, it can be bought for a good price, as I just told you in my history that I got it for under spot. And I still, well, today probably would be challenged a little bit to find it on a spot, even though I think if I went searching through OfferUp and Craigslist, I could find it for spot or under. But we're just going through a temporary thing right now where it's been up there pretty high. But when things stabilize and get back to normal, you can find this for spot or less pretty easily if you look. So that's another great thing about constitutional silver. And also, other people love it as well. So if you do need to sell it, you can usually unload it pretty quick. People are willing to buy this stuff. So there's all the good things that are there for constitutional silver. Now, are there any cons? Yeah, I would say there's a con, and the biggest con is how heavy it is. Now, if you're going to need to pick this stuff up quickly and move, you're gonna struggle because these boxes of quarters are pretty heavy. I mean, all these boxes are heavy. There's 50 rolls in a guardhouse box of quarters, 50 rolls of dimes, and 28 rolls of halves here. So together, these three boxes would be, you'd have a hard time carrying all three. So that's definitely a con. My recommendation is to break it up, put it in smaller quantity in different places. So if you had to bug out or get out quickly, it'd be more manageable for you. And you definitely want it available. If something happens, you want to have your constitutional silver with you. You don't want to be leaving it behind. So think about it, be a little bit creative on how to break it up and where to store it. But make sure you have it available because, having rolls of this, even bags of this, a lot of people store it in bags, will be critical to the overall process. So that's really the kind of the backstory is that I was tagged by one of my great supporters, Constitutional King. If I go back and look at my history, I started out with finding all this stuff under spot and really only buying under spot and was able to accumulate quite a bit of it because of it. And then I found this resource on Let Go. My very first purchase from him was at 47 cents below spot. And that really was what started it out. And then after that, it went to, not quite as much, maybe about 25 cents below spot, and then 77 and 35. So it just depended on what I was buying and the kind of deal we could work. And then, as you know from watching my videos, it got up into the $2, $3, $4 below spot pretty quick. So I never paid over spot in my purchases from him. And that was just a blessing and a really fortunate contact to come across because he had the supply and I had the demand and it really worked out very well. And it wasn't a one-time purchase. It was a purchase over, a long time where we could, save our money and have an opportunity to pick it up. And so it worked out really well. And we ended up, just being blessed and being able to pick up. And he was a good resource because like these BU coins, there's some BU over here in the quarters that you can't really see, but they're over here as well. It didn't matter the condition. He sold me, very, very good quality stuff for the same price, sometimes $3, $4, $5 below spot for BU coin. I don't necessarily collect BU coins with constitutional silver. I don't want to pay the high premiums. I know when I looked on, I think Bullion or one of the websites the other day last week, a BU roll of halves of Kennedy halves was over $200. So BU coins command a high premium, and as a stacker, I don't want to pay that high premium. So that's why, and, if they got some wear on them and stuff, that's okay. See some Mercury dimes there. I don't really label my dimes. I'm not really sure what's in there, but there's a bunch of Mercury, a bunch of Roosevelt, and these will be good through different situations in life. So I would encourage everybody, buy your Constitutional, collect it if you can. Make sure you have access to it in case you need it. And in my opinion, it's one of the best silver purchases you can make. Thank you for watching, and always remember, let's keep talking bullion.